refusing to drive my husband to the airport and being upset he is leaving?
We live on the East Coast and his family lives in TX. My family live about 4 hours away. They drive to us for every holiday, birthday, dance recital, etc. We have lived here for roughly 7 years. Before that, we lived in TX. His family takes several trips/vacations a year and only once, this past year, came to visit us. Over the 7 years we have went to visit them at minimum 1 to 3 times per year. My husband works out of town about 3 weeks a month, so it's a lot of solo parenting for me. The weekend before Christmas he went with his parents and siblings to OK to visit his grandparents. Myself and my children were unable to go as my daughter had holiday things going on at home she didn't want to miss. He came home the Monday before Christmas and asked if we could swing a trip to TX after Christmas to see his family, and so his dad and him could go to the Alamo Bowl. I told him that we unfortunately couldn't. We really couldn't swing an unplanned trip financially right now, and with wanting to travel so close to the holidays, booking prices were extremely high. I also explained to him that our daughter had off of school and all sports this week, and that never happens, especially when he is home too, and I really wanted this to be a week for us to all spend together. Especially since he will start traveling for work again on the 2nd of January and will not be home until the last week of January. The day before Christmas Eve I was out shopping and he texted me saying he knew I was going to be mad, but his dad had booked him a flight and bought tickets for himself, my husband, my Bill and Mill to all go to the game. He would return the 30th. I got upset because we had already talked about going and I said that we just couldn't swing it this year. His response was that he knew nothing about this and his dad surprised him with it for a last-minute Christmas gift, which is a lie because they mailed our gifts to us and our children and he had received a Christmas gift. I asked him if everything had already been purchased as I would like him to not go. He said yes, and that he was going because it's something he really wanted to do. We haven't spoken much since then honestly because I feel very hurt that he doesn't want to spend time with myself and our children before a long work trip after he's just seen his family last week, and would rather spend most of the week with his parents. He says that we could just book flights for myself and our kids to go, but we honestly don't have the money and I'm not maxing out a credit card for an unplanned trip. Tonight he asked me if I will be driving him to the airport tomorrow morning for a 6 a.m. flight. I told him that he will need to book an Uber because I'm not waking our kids up at 3:30 a.m. to drive an hour each way to the airport so that he can go on a trip that I don't even want him going on. He says that I'm being unreasonable. Comment 1. He is away for work for extreme amounts of time and wants to spend all his free time with his extended family and not you and the kids, and you are being unreasonable. NTA. You are basically a single parent as it is and he chooses to ignore you when you say no to him going away again. He is treating you like he doesn't care about you or the kids. And that you will just accept it and forgive him. If I was you I would take a good hard look at how many times he has done things like this, and if it's a lot, do you want to put up with this for the rest of your life? You are basically a married single parent. 3 weeks out of a month he is away for work and his free time isn't spent with you and the kids. Sounds like he doesn't care. Comment 2. NTA. Sweetie, you do not have a husband. You have a sperm donor, mostly absent roommate who pays rent. He clearly wants nothing to do with you or the kids right now. You need to take the time while he is away to decide if there is enough of your relationship that exists that you want to try to fight to make things better, or if you just need to cut your losses and move on without him. You are already doing it all without him, and when you try to ask him for help, he runs to mommy and daddy. Comment 3. NTA. Don't pick him up when he returns, either. Don't even be home. Go on a day trip with the kids and return once he has left. Let him see how it feels to be abandoned by family.
Telling my dad that I don't care that his stepdaughter died?
I'm 28 m. My mama died not long after I was born. Dad married Tina, not her real name, when I was 7. She had a daughter also 7 from a previous relationship, Diana. Me and Diana did not get along. Diana was spoiled, and to adult me, It was obvious she resented not being the only child anymore. She took it out on me. She would break my toys and steal my stuff and lie to get me in trouble. I would complain to Dad and Tina, but they told me to get over it. If I did the same, I would get punished. It only got worse as we got older. I felt abandoned by my dad. I often felt lonely in my house. So I guess you guys can see who the golden child was. At 16, Diana spread a nasty rumor about me in school and I almost got expelled. Diana got caught lying and got suspended. Of course, Dad and Tina blamed me for this. That was the last straw for me. I rang my cousin, Shyla from my mama's side, and told her what's been happening. She came over to my house angry at Tina and Dad. She gave them a piece of her mind. Dad said if it bothered her so much, then she was welcome to have me. That was a blow to my heart to hear my own dad say that to me. So me and Shyla went to pack my stuff. Diana's room was open and she was sitting on her bed smirking at me. We got my stuff and we left. I haven't looked back since. Over the years, Dad or even Diana tried to contact me, but I would block all attempts. Now a week ago, Shyla visited me. She told me that she got a message from Dad, for me. I was surprised she even mentioned Dad since she knew how I felt about him. She told me that Diana was in fatal accident and didn't make it. She said he was wanting to talk to me. Shyla handed me his number and said it's up to me. I did ring him out of curiosity, more than anything. He didn't even recognize my voice. But when I told him it was me, he broke down crying and most of the time I couldn't make sense of what he was saying. When he calmed down, he said my sister died and it's time to come back home and make things right with each other. I asked, what sister? I have no sister. He started crying and saying, don't do this. She doesn't deserve this. This enraged me and I just let out all my anger, hurt and frustration I had felt towards them and ended with I don't care if she had died. My girlfriend who was beside me took my phone off me and ended the call for me. Glad she did, before I had said any more. She told me later that I could have been more understanding. I've had time to think over and wonder if she is right. Comment 1. NTA. You've more or less moved on from your dad's rejection and you owe him nothing at this point. Could you have been more empathetic? Sure, but he threw away your love and empathy when you were 16. On a side note, you need to have a very serious conversation with your girlfriend about how you were treated growing up. It can be hard for people who didn't grow up with shitty parents/families to understand that just because their family was good it's not the case for you and there is no hope for reconciliation. Comment 2. NTA. Your father enabled you to be abused in your own home, and then tossed you out when he was called out. Now his golden child is dead, he's suddenly remembered he has a consolation child. Hard no. He created this, he put everything in place for this, and he's not sorry, he's just sad his favorite child is dead. He's lost 2 children, and he's the reason he lost one. He failed as father, he doesn't get to waltz back and pretend nothing happened just because he's feeling sad. You're not a consolation and you don't have to listen to your abuser feel sorry for themselves so they can continue their fantasy and not be held accountable. Comment 3. NTA. You probably need to tell your GF the full story of your childhood, so she understands why you said what you said. But yes, your GF was right to end the call before you said anything else.
Allowing my son to fail a major assignment and telling him he deserved the 0?
My son Devin plagiarized an essay for English by copy-pasting most of the sentences from CliffNotes and replacing one of the letters with a specific Russian letter that looked the same as the original English letter. It wasn't as if Devin plagiarized without meaning to. My son knew exactly what he was doing. Devin's essay did bypass the plagiarism software, but his teacher immediately recognized that it was from CliffNotes and informed me that Devin would be receiving a 0, which is how I became aware of the situation. Devin's grade dropped to a D. Devin asked me to essentially fight with the school to get his grade fixed. I told him no and that he deserved the 0. If you're struggling with an essay, you reach out and ask for help. You don't try to cheat your way out. He knew better than that. Devon's mom Emma called me because she just received the physical report card in the mail and saw the D in English. Devon hadn't told his mom about what happened, and it's too late to challenge the 0 now since grades have already been finalized. Emma tried to interrogate me on why I didn't challenge the 0 when it was possible. I told Emma that I wanted this lesson to stick with Devon. Devon will graduate high school in 2 years. Getting a D in high school is better than getting kicked out of university or fired from a job for trying to pass off someone else's work as his own. Emma argued that a D will seriously hurt Devon's university prospects. She said she doesn't condone what Devon did and would have been in agreement with a home punishment such as grounding Devon, but that I was a terrible parent for making our son experience a punishment that she says can seriously impact his future. Unless Devon were applying to an Ivy League, which he has not had any interest in, then I doubt 1D will destroy his university prospects. I'm struggling to understand Emma's perspective and need more opinions. Comment 1. You know what gets you delisted from universities? You know what college takes incredibly seriously? Plagiarism. I know 3 people who were expelled for doing exactly what Devon did, but more sophisticated. When it happens in university, you often still owe the remaining tuition. If you had a student loan with deferred payments, those will start once you're expelled. You won't be accepted into another university. If your grade or essay impacted other students or the university's standing, you could face a lawsuit. It's no joke. It's much easier to learn this in high school. I think what you're learning, is that his mom is modeling a different set of values for him. Comment 2. NTA. As a university English professor, I send you my grateful thanks for doing what all parents should do in that situation. Because of you, he can learn from this now, learn that there are consequences for plagiarism and learn to actually write well. Both of those lessons will serve him far better in college later than a fake good grade will now. If you had done as he'd asked, and it had worked, he'd be hated by his teachers, he'd learn nothing, and when he tried to pull that nonsense in college, he'd be suspended or even expelled. Comment 3. Devon's mom is exactly why teachers are quitting their jobs. Kids aren't being held accountable for their actions and teachers are getting the blowback. Heck no should the teacher's decision be challenged. Devon has 2 years to get his grades up and make some decisions on university, and 1D in English as a sophomore won't kill it all. Well done for parenting the right way and actually teaching your son that there are consequences to all actions.
Saying I don't want to be called aunt?
My 32F father is 20 years older than his younger brother, David, 34M. Due to various factors, David spent a majority of his early years with my parents. By the time I was 10 and David was 12, he moved in. David and my dad look nearly identical and people always assumed that was his son. My parents always said he was their first kid, they loved him like a son, etc. I always felt a bit weird about this. David is a nice guy, but he's not my brother. I never understood why it was my parents' job to pick up the slack of my grandparents. It caused a few disagreements in my youth that always boiled down to David has nothing, you have everything, be nice. I hated that I essentially went from an only child to a younger sister without being asked. I never looked at David as a brother, but obviously due to our small age gap, I never saw him as an uncle. To me, he's just family. We get along well. David is now married with a daughter, Aria. My parents are grandma and grandpa to her. It does make me feel some sort of way that they've christened her as their first grandbaby, but I've accepted I can't control how they feel and relate themselves to David. So long as when my husband and I have kids they're the same to them, and I know they will be, that's fine. The real issue is that David, his wife and my parents have tried making me Aunt Tabitha. I don't like it. Aria isn't my niece. I tried to just refer to myself as my first name with her, but the hint wasn't going through. As Aria is too little to speak, 8 months, I plan to let it go for now. Yesterday, we were at my parents' for Christmas. Aria was being fussed over, as usual. When it came time for David and his wife to help her unwrap the gift my husband and I got her, David told Arya, "This is from Auntie Tabitha and Uncle Mike." Without thinking I said just Tabitha and Mike. David gave me an odd look but went back to unwrapping. Later on, privately, David asked if I was okay. I said yes. Why? He said I got weird during gifts. I said not weird, just factual. I'm not Arya's aunt. He was still confused. I said I'm not his sister. This seemed to hurt his feelings, but he said okay, apologized and said he'd never say it again. My mom pulled me aside later and said I was cruel to David. She said he considered me his sister. I simply said I'm not, and I'm not that baby's aunt. My mom gave me a disgusted look. She and my dad barely spoke to me the rest of the night, though David and his wife were polite. My husband feels there were better ways of going about it. Comment 1. YTA, you need to let go of your resentment over not being the center of attention. You're pissed David came to live with you and you gasp. Had to share your childhood. Your P. David's daughter is being fussed over and is being taught to call your parents grandparents. I mean, do you see the entitlement? Family is what you make it. It looks like your parents have built a beautiful family and you're over here bitter over not being the center of attention. Titles mean nothing. You can ask not to be called aunt. That doesn't matter. What does matter is your crappy attitude. Comment 2. YTA, I'm not trying to be rude, but it sounds like you have some unresolved jealousy that a therapist could help you work through. It's understanding to have difficulty adjusting as children, but to still think your parents should have asked you if you're okay they raised David is over the top. You need to stop being self-centered and grow up a bit. The fact is your parents probably saved David from a shit life and you're here pissed over it. Should they have left him to suffer for you?